You're watching Access Asia. I'm Molly Hall. Here's what's coming up in the program. Stretched to the limits. As India's population continues to grow, its railway networks are buckling under the pressure. And Chinese factories turn to robots and machines to stay competitive and keep costs low. Plus, its art, funding, and design are all North Korean, but this new museum is actually based in Cambodia. But first, Panjwai was once one of the most dangerous areas of Afghanistan. Located in the heart of Kandahar province, it used to be a Taliban stronghold. But that's no longer the case thanks to local forces who have succeeded where foreign troops failed. However, their methods have been criticized.
Risking his life daily to protect others in his homeland. With no protection or proper equipment, this Afghan policeman tracks down mines in Panjwai district and destroys them. His team claimed they've defused up to 50,000 mines in this former Taliban stronghold over the past couple of years.
If I catch anyone planting a landmine, I will force him to sit on it and will explode both the mine and him.
This district in Kandahar was one of the centerpieces of President Barack Obama's troop surge in 2009, aimed at crushing the Taliban. But it quickly became another poster child for failed Western intervention. And 4 years ago, it made global headlines when U.S. soldier Robert Bales massacred 16 locals. Haji Wazir lost 11 of his family members in the rampage, seen as the worst American wartime atrocity in decades.
When the Americans were here, the security situation was really bad. They would beat, torture and kill people every day. They did not respect the traditions of the people.
When U.S. forces pulled out of Panjwai in 2013, it was ranked among the top 10 most dangerous districts in the country. But what happened then is an Afghan exception. Working together, army and police forces managed to push out the Taliban.
The Taliban used to fire on the American base from nearby, and the Americans wouldn't chase them back. But we would chase every single Taliban attacker, and we never allowed them to achieve their goal.
The district's transformation is largely attributed to the local police chief, along with his provincial counterpart. They have a reputation for brutality and are accused of using torture chambers. But they say they're getting the job done.
Apart from providing us weapons, foreign forces have no role to play on the ground. People don't like them to be around.
Panjwai represents a rare solo triumph for Afghan forces, otherwise struggling to quell a nationwide insurgency. A year after NATO's combat mission ended, nearly 30% of all districts are outside of government control. But here, abandoned U.S. bases are just a reminder of how far this part of Afghanistan has come.
Next, in less than 2 decades, India will become the world's most populated country. It's already home to over 1.2 billion people. Well, the sheer number of commuters poses huge transportation challenges. Despite having one of the world's longest rail networks, the infrastructure is stretched to its limits, and simply getting to school can be a real challenge.
The capital is nearly 30 kilometers away, but when the day's first train arrives at this rural station, it's already packed. For this group of high school students, it's every man for himself. Here we follow Sumit.
Up here.
If you need to get on the train, you have no choice but to head to the roof. A minute later, the train continues its journey towards New Delhi.
Every day we need to come up here because there is no place in the train. Of course, we don't like it, but if we need to travel, we have to do it.
Passengers who did not have time to get up on the roof have to cling to train doors and windows instead.
It's packed inside. It's impossible to get inside. There are too many people.
Some are even helped up to the roof. The closer the train is to the capital, more and more people climb onto the top, hundreds outside each wagon. The level of danger is extremely high. Between electrical cables and pushing, accidents are a daily affair.
When someone falls, the train goes over them. If the police finds an identity card on the body, it sends it to the family. If not, it's never identified. Near the bridge over there, a man was cut in half when he fell in front of the train. He was married and had a 5-year-old son.
As New Delhi approaches, people need to get off the roof as the electrical cables are more and more frequent. And inside the train, everyone is anxiously waiting to get out. Traveling on the roof is prohibited by law. Filmed discreetly, the police at the station are ready to talk.
What can we do? The problem is there are 1 million passengers on this line. They don't listen to us. How can we control them? There aren't enough of us.
The students have finally arrived in New Delhi and their school day can now begin.
If we want to make something of ourselves, we need to take this train every day. There is no other solution. When the train is cancelled, that's when the problems begin.
India is a developing country of 1.2 billion people. Yet despite its vast rail network, the infrastructure is hugely inadequate as the population continues to rise.
Well, India's population will eventually bump China from the top spot. And that country is a dominant force in the world's manufacturing sector. Well, despite China's population of over 1 billion, it's becoming increasingly difficult to gather a workforce, and higher wages are prompting factories to turn to machines to cut costs and meet targets. Our Oliver Ferry reports.
This could be the Chinese factory of tomorrow, completely automated with robots replacing workers. The Chinese government has invested billions of euros in a program intended to run till 2025 to deal with the scarcity of manpower. There are still humans in this factory, though they mightn't be noticeable at first.
Here we make parts for mobile phones.
The humans are not manual workers, but engineers who are there only to program and maintain the machines. A robotised machine arm costs up to 20,000 euros, which pays for itself in 12 months. It replaces 6 to 8 workers, meaning greater productivity and profitability. 3,500 smartphone cases are made here every day.
To produce those quantities, we would need nearly 300 workers on the production line, and even with that many people, we would barely manage to turn out 3,000 units per day.
The robots can replace humans for practically all tasks. They move, assemble, clean and drill with unparalleled accuracy. Workerless factories are increasingly common in the southern province of Guangdong, nicknamed the world's factory. This is the more familiar sight. Hundreds of production line workers in huge warehouses. Labour has been abundant and cheap, but all that is changing. It might seem incredible in a country of 900 million workers, but there's now a scarcity of manpower, threatening the economic model which has ensured China's success. Chu Lei was among the first industrialists to see the change coming. For the past 5 years, he has been running a thriving factory producing industrial robots, heavily subsidized by local authorities.
Today it's getting harder and harder to attract workers. They're better educated and they no longer want to leave their home regions to work in a factory. What's more, the cost of labor has risen by about 30%. That's why the demand for industrial robots has exploded.
And bosses can only see the benefits. Robots can work 24 hours a day, never get sick, and don't need lunch breaks, unlike flesh and blood employees, even if some prefer their robots to at least look like humans.
Well, next, North Korea is known by many as a reclusive authoritarian state. But what about its role as an art exporter? For decades, one studio in Pyongyang has been reaching far beyond the country's borders, working on monumental projects for African or other Asian nations. We take a look now at one of its biggest works commissioned by Cambodia.
A panorama draws the viewer into an ancient lost world, when the Khmer civilization ruled over swathes of Southeast Asia. Through 360 degrees, the new attraction beside Cambodia's Angkor Wat temple complex seamlessly blends 3D sculpture and 2D painting. And though it depicts the proudest era in Cambodian history, the artists, the funding and the design all came from North Korea. Its leadership is a global pariah, but management here are hoping visitors won't be deterred.
You can see around this museum that is not related to any political issue about the North Korean regimes. This museum is for develop tourism products and also our Khmer culture only.
The Angkor Panorama Museum is a creation of Mansudae, North Korea's most prestigious art studio. Works by its 4,000 artists can be seen throughout the communist country, including these giant statues of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il. But it also makes commissions for foreign governments. The colossal African Renaissance monument in Senegal, a statue of Joseph Kabila in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Namibia's new State House were all produced by the Pyongyang studio. According to Nicholas Bonner, who sells its work in his Beijing gallery, the deals are more about commerce than propaganda.
If you want something built, then Mansudae Art Studio will probably be very cost effective. So I think that is a large part of the consideration.
The Panorama is one of Mansudae's largest overseas projects to date, and the first time it's directly invested money abroad. After it recoups the $26 million cost, revenues will eventually pass entirely to Cambodia. But human rights groups say the museum is supporting one of the world's most oppressive regimes.
We feel reasonably sure to say that the money is going to be going back to some aspect of the government or the ruling Korean Workers' Party. Our view is that tourists shouldn't go and patronize that. Ultimately, Cambodia should be joining the world consensus to take action against crimes against humanity in North Korea, not find ways to financially support them.
Thousands visit Angkor Wat every single day, but so far the new museum is attracting just a trickle of visitors. Nonetheless, the North Korean regime looks to have left a permanent imprint on one of Asia's most iconic tourist destinations.
We leave you now with images of pandas on tour in Thailand. 1,600 Pandas is an art exhibit created in 2008 by French artist Paulo Grandjean. And it's exactly that, 1,600 papier-mâché pandas made to raise awareness of endangered species. We'll leave you now with those images. Do stay tuned. You're watching France 24.